So walk us through this. I know you've served in the military, and you're, if I'm not mistaken, you're a physician. But I want to know about this Think and Grow Rich in the book and how that has helped you. And then we can walk into it and definitely, you know, go to that part. So go ahead and introduce to everybody yourself and a little bit of your background. I don't want to say it the wrong way, so you go ahead and say it.
Yeah, sure. So Dan Pronk is my name. I'm Australian. I have a background, as you identified, in the military. I joined the Army to study medicine. So the Army in Australia has got a scholarship scheme where they put you through university, and I signed up for that, and then you go in and serve. And so I did my medical schooling, did a couple of years as a junior doctor, then went into the Army and ended up spending 14 years in the Army, most of which with special operations, and did a number of rotations to Afghanistan in that capacity. And then after that, got out, did an MBA, work in a executive management role, and co-own a couple of companies and have started up a couple of entrepreneurial startups.
Wow. Okay, that's a handful. 14 years in the military. You must have really loved it. What is it that you loved about military that made you that's not an environment where everybody can survive. How did you last that long?
Look, I think it was a very stimulating environment. I really professionally enjoyed it. I enjoyed the physical aspect of it. I've always loved sport, and so the physical side of things was great. But I think that the camaraderie and being part of a high performance team, particularly within the special operations teams, was just fantastic. And particularly in a period of time where we were spending time deployed overseas. So you were doing the job you were trained to do. I felt it was really meaningful, stimulating and rewarding work.
Wow, that's awesome. I get excited about those things. My wife is a little bit sensitive when it comes to guns, so I keep my stuff different places. She doesn't like it in the house, so we're always I think if one day, God forbid, something happens to me, the first thing she's going to get rid of is my fish tank, and she's going to get rid of the gun. Yeah. Those are the two things she's going to get rid of immediately. And you want to know what's the craziest thing? Hopefully she's not watching this. I hope she doesn't sell them to what I told her that I bought them for, because then some people are going to get real deals, because she thinks those fishes are 20, 30 bucks when they're not 20, 30 bucks.
I've got the same thing with cars. I think my wife's going to get rid of my cars straight away. And like you, what I told her that I bought them for is what she'll probably sell them for.
You know, some people are going to love those deals that they get from my wife. They're like, this was a killer deal. Yeah. She didn't know how much these things were worth. I don't know. Maybe I got to put it on my will somewhere. Do not sell it for unless you get this price. I lied to you before.
Put the receipts in with the will.
All right, Dan, let's talk about it. At what age did you get started with Think and Grow Rich, and how? Give us a little bit of that part.
So I would have read that in my early 20s. I reckon I would have been 20 or 21 when I first read it, and I would have read it 5 or 6 times since, including just recently in the last 3-4 months. I listened to it on audio book again. So probably 4 or 5 times over the past 20 years.
Wow. So what was, okay, so you read it a long time ago. What did you get then, and what did you get recently that you read it? What was the difference in the intake on both different times?
I think the first time I read it, the things that struck me, and it really reinforced, that was at a time where I was very focused on my military side of things. I was very determined to do Special Forces selection. And the things that struck me and that resonated in my early 20s were the burning desire, the persistence, those sort of themes, the case studies of the exceptional people, you know, the Henry Fords and what have you, that are covered by Napoleon Hill in the book, and those just single-minded, determined people that ignored all the critics and just got on and did what they wanted to do. And so that was the message that I needed in my early point.
And I lost you for a second, but I think you okay. I got you back now. So let me ask you a question. This last time that you read it, what did you get this time from it, or how are you implementing that different than what you got, you know, many years ago?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I took something completely different away from it this time round. I think one of the key things, because I'm over 40 now myself, is the point in there that a lot of productive men don't really hit their straps until their 40s. And I think I heard that because I wanted to hear it. But
You touch up. Listen, I don't want to get you started on that chapter because every time I talk about the sex part, sex transmission, I get so many DMs. I go crazy. Everybody wants to know that. Someone like we're not talking about sex. They get it confused all the time.
No.
Yeah. I'm like, we're not talking about sex. We're talking about channeling different energies in different manners to be able to achieve what you want to get. So you touched up on a good point. But then I do see. Why do you think it's hard for men to get focused in what they want before age 40? Why does it happen after 4? I mean, it could be between 40 and 50. I'm not going to put an exact date on it, but why is it that we need to mature up and it takes that much time for us to do that?
Yeah, I think maybe it's a lot to do with the male ego. To be perfectly honest with you, I think we're fairly testosterone fueled in our 20s. We're competitive, which can be good, but can also be counterproductive. So I think by the time you hit your 40s, or certainly for myself, late 30s, 40s, I felt far more comfortable with my own less requirement to compare myself to others, and just found myself wanting to pursue my own personal improvement without really having to peg it against someone else. Also, I guess you hit a point where you're established professionally, you're established, you've got a good grounding financially, you're often pretty stable, hopefully by that point. And so it's a good launch pad. You've got a good skill set that you've been developing over a period of time to then use as a launch pad for what's next if you choose to pursue further education, training, start businesses, these sort of things.
I agree with that. What would you say was the secret for you?
Look, I think the thing that's resonated mostly now, as I said, I've taken different things from it during different periods of my life, but one really interesting point that I hadn't really cottoned on to prior was where he's talking, I mean, it's obviously written and released at a time following the Great Depression, and interestingly, near on 100 years ago, and most of the themes, 95% of them are still applicable to today's world. But one thing that I latched onto this time round was that he was talking about the emerging radio and how that was a massive opportunity for people to get into. And you can look at that near on 100 years later. And I mean, television wasn't even thought of back when he wrote this book. But if you superimpose the internet and the opportunities with social media, particularly these days, and put that in place of what he's talking about with the themes relating to radio, then they're as applicable to us now, near on 100 years later.
I couldn't agree with you more on that, because it's so crazy how you can go back in time. And now that we look at it, we're like, some of these concepts that we're talking about was cutting edge. I mean, when he put that in, it was just like cutting edge. So he was talking about stuff that not everybody was cutting on that fast. I mean, it was a movement, it was happening, but now with social media, everything else, just the fact that you and I could be talking and discussing the stuff that was written all that years ago, it's just phenomenal. It's just crazy. It just tells you that how powerful human beings are, that in 100 years, how much we have changed. Our world, our surroundings has changed. For all these millions, I mean, think about this. For these millions and billions of years that our earth has been around, pretty much everything was chilling, everything was all right, everything was going based on the higher powers law, everything was happening. But in the past couple of 100 years, just look how much we have messed things up, or we have improved things that is going crazy. So Dan, give me your pitch, the best pitch why everybody should read this book. Give me your sales pitch on, convince me why I should read this book if people are watching this video and live stream, and if they have not taken the time to read it cover to cover, at least the first time.
I guess to start with on the pitch, it's probably not for everyone. I don't think everyone should read that book, but I think the people that have logged in to watch this live stream are the people who should read this book. And I think what it will do, and what it did for me, is it solidifies in your mind the resolve to pursue your dreams. It makes them tangible. It gives you some really solid starting points to be able to move towards your dreams, and then and your goals. and then it kind of demystifies the process of excellence. You hear about these people like the you know, Henry Ford's a great example and what he's achieved, but until you hear that story about what he's overcome and how he sort of swam against the stream, if you like, these sort of things, and that's one of many case examples. I mean, one thing I failed to mention was also the concept of the Mastermind group. And that was something that I think's brilliant, and we know it today. I mean, mastermind's it's a term in common usage, but this is nearly 100 years ago. He's talking about sitting around with other great minds, and the sum of all your minds is going to be better than yours. So, look, I think for anyone who's interested in self-improvement, who's interested in starting a business, who's interested in pursuing excellence in the role they're in, then this book's invaluable. And as I've identified, and I think many else have, it's invaluable at different stages. You'll take different things away from it. So it's not a book that you read and then it becomes outdated. Something about, you know, latest and greatest social media trends is one that's evergreen and has been for near on 100 years and continue to be. And it's as applicable as you go through your stage as it is at starting. So you can revisit it, get something different out of it each time. So yeah, for anyone who's interested in self-improvement, it's a must.
Dan, I really, really appreciate you taking this time. We will be doing more videos together because I want to get into the medical field of how it is. And when you go to military, where you really are saving lives on daily basis, and what kind of a mindset it would take to go just through those challenges, because I think a lot of people are completely, we're not exposed to it, I should say, on routinely where we know what it takes to go through. I mean, that's some serious pressure. I mean, we're in business and we think our competitors are not being nice, polite, they're not playing by our rules, and you know, we get upset at that. But when you go to the environment that you've been there, the competitor is trying to put a bullet in your head. I mean, they're not trying to play nice at all. So I want to know what it takes and how you can be able to sustain that kind of mindset for a long period of time. So I'm not done with you, brother. We're gonna be doing this more often. And next time you're gonna show me your cat in the background that's walking around. I saw your cat.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm gonna get familiarized with them too.
Look, that sounds fantastic. I'd it'd be a great privilege to have the opportunity to come back and chat about that mindset. That'd be wonderful.
I appreciate it. You have a pleasant day. You and I are going to be in contact. Thank you so much for that.
Sounds great. Thank you kindly. Cheers.
Take
Have a
care.
great day.
Cheers. Bye-bye.